Hello everyone, and welcome to the UCL M&A Group's brand new Diversity and Inclusion Week. My name is Nicola, and I'm the head of speaker relations at the group, and alongside me is Emerald, our speaker relations executive. Following the huge success of our M&A Monday series, we felt obligated to address the importance of the diversity and inclusion topic within the investment banking industry, as the society with the largest social media presence in the whole UK. Therefore, during this 7-day event, you can expect interviews with heads of diversity and inclusion of leading investment banks, M&A advisors, and panel events, which will help students coming from diverse backgrounds break into the industry.
Today, we're delighted to welcome another speaker with us in our D&I week, Katy Ingle. Katy has been the Bank of America Emea's head of diversity and inclusion for almost 4 years, after working for 11 years as the head of the junior talent team. Katy is an experienced HR professional with a bachelor's degree in business administration from University of Chester and a master in human resources management from University of Derby. Katy has been one of the leading advocates for greater diversity and inclusion in the City of London. We are very happy to have her here today. So without further ado, let's get started. How are you, Katy?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me along to this.
Okay, so for the first question, we just wanted to start with the more personal questions. So what prompted you to specifically go into and lead diversity and inclusion at Bank of America after long previous experience in the recruitment part of the bank?
Thank you. So yes, so I've always had some connectivity to diversity and inclusion in my recruitment experience. So previously, as you said, I was head of junior talent for the Emea region at Bank of America. And a key focus in that role was how to create a strong pipeline of diverse talent into our programs. So our internships, our graduate positions, and also our apprenticeship roles as well. So a key focus there was very much around our university attraction strategy with that diversity lens. So we hire from more than 600 universities around the world. And so the attraction strategy was really fundamental to building that strong pipeline of diverse talent to the organization from the start, really. So in addition to that, I was working with lots of a wide array of external partnerships and organizations like Upreach, SEO, Code First Girls, My Plus Consulting, who all focus on creating a strong population of diverse applications for organizations through multiple channels. So really interesting, fundamental to the role. But what I'd also say is I had a personal motivation to enter the world of diversity and inclusion. So I was the first in my family to go to university. I had very few people around me who were able to give career advice. And it was by luck that I found a mentor who gave me great advice and who really championed my education in those early days, which helped lead to get me where I am today. So for me, it's about the importance of both mentors and role models to support underrepresented groups in the workforce and to help inspire young people in the future as well. And it would be remiss of me to say, these days I'm also a mum of 2. And therefore, I also have further perspectives as a working mum and the importance of creating a workplace which allows working parents to thrive. And in addition, the perspective of being a mother, and if I could do something to drive progress and change so that when my daughter enters the discussion on careers, she can see and learn from role models and fully understand the opportunities available to her, then I feel like I've played a role in paving the way for the future generations.
Thank you, that sounds really interesting. And just to perfectly follow up on that, can you share an experience which you are most proud of as the head of diversity and inclusion within the Bank of America, where you actually felt that you made an impact in contributing to diversity and inclusion, not only at the bank, but on the industry as a whole?
Yeah, of course. It's incredibly hard to pinpoint just one. In this role, there's so many opportunities to celebrate the Bank of America's focus on our employees and those who are passionate in the space and everything that we've achieved together. I think in recognition that the last 18 months have been incredibly difficult for so many due to COVID and also the social injustice that we've seen around the world. I'd say that one proud moment in 2020 was being part of Bank of America's stance in light of the injustice we saw around George Floyd and the impact we saw globally. Internally, we took several steps to support our employees and engage our employees. And externally, we initially announced a $1 billion 4-year commitment to drive economic opportunity and racial equality. And we later increased that to $1.25 billion and a 5-year commitment. Now, being part of an organization that makes these kinds of commitments and the stance that our CEO takes makes me incredibly proud and I think really helps to drive change and responsibility, not just within our organization with what we're focusing on and how we're driving responsible growth and supporting the communities that we work with, but also within the financial services industry as well. Now, what I would say is also, I'm in my role, as many D&I professionals will tell you, you're also really fortunate to meet incredibly passionate people who really care about diversity, inclusion, and social justice. And one thing that makes me incredibly proud from an internal perspective every year is that we celebrate our diversity and inclusion awards, where we will take nominations of employees from around the world who have really made a change. And I would say as a D&I professional, it's always an incredibly proud moment when I see our Emea winners take to the stage, receive recognition from our CEO and our senior leadership team, and receive their awards and just be recognised for the work that they're doing. And knowing that diversity and inclusion team here at the bank have helped make some of that happen and support our employees to drive change. That's always a proud feeling as well. Two very different scales there, but always a really proud feeling when you're working with employees and helping drive change and impact.
Thank you. And you also mentioned the employee engagement. So just to expand on that, how can you actually involve the Bank of America employees and let everyone contribute to creating a more equal and diverse workplace?
So at Bank of America, we have 11 employee networks with over 250 chapters and 180,000 members globally. So if you think about it, there's a significant amount of people there to engage with and to hear voices. So we're incredibly lucky. And like, many other organizations have employee networks as well. But with our employee networks, we engage, we hear their voices, and it gives us that opportunity to hear from people from diverse backgrounds and to hear their perspectives. So not only do our employee networks drive engagement and development and progress across different strands of diversity for our employees, but they're also our advocates, our allies, our champions for each other and our communities. So it's really important that you tap into that and you listen to the different voices you have within your organisation. So we spend a lot of time with our employee networks. We've also got several working groups, particularly here in region, that are focused around specific areas, and hearing their thoughts, feedback, and then helping us identifying the solutions that we need to drive to help support our workforce and match the communities that we operate in as well. So I think in engaging with employees from different backgrounds is fundamental to making sure that we create a great place to work where everyone feels they can bring their whole self to work. And that's part of Bank of America's strategy. Our overall strategy is around responsible growth and creating that organization that is a great place to work, but that also matches the clients and communities that we work with.
Thank you. We know that you're very active in the D&I industry, and as you mentioned in an article, we could always do more. So do you have plans for future initiatives where Bank of America is going to be at the forefront of the push for greater diversity and inclusion, not only in the bank, but in the financial industry as a whole?
Yeah. So we've made some significant investments, like I talked about before, and commitments in the last 12 months. And as I mentioned, in 2020, our CEO, Brian Moynihan, pledged the $1 billion 4-year commitment. We later increased that to $1.25 billion across a 5-year commitment. And that work continues. We're not done. That was announced last year. There's 5 years still to go. So that's very much where we're focusing right now. And the effort continues to accelerate work around key areas such as health, jobs, small businesses support, and also affordable housing, more so in the US. And that's where our continued focus will be. We've announced several several different areas of focus and initiatives within that more recently and over the last 12 months. So our commitment in that space continues, and we're continuing to innovate on where we need to focus as an organisation and the type of organisation that we are. But I'll give you some insights into some things that are happening or have happened just more recently or are going to happen in the future. So this week we announced a new initiative with a youth UK charity called Impetus, and we're going to be partnering with them on their leadership academy. And that's with the aim of offering development training to emerging leaders who are from an ethnic minority background and who are working in the youth sector across the UK. So really focusing on supporting that organisation, so Impetus to increase the representation of charity leaders as we go forward from an ethnic minority background, and ultimately to hear from young people in that sector and improve the effectiveness of the UK youth sector today as well. Also, I would say we've got many different initiatives and partnerships that are long-standing, and we continue to innovate with those different partnerships that we have across a variety of areas. So a couple to maybe mention, we've got a long-standing partnership with an organisation called Code First Girls. So we've had that partnership since 2016. They've become the largest provider of free coding courses for women in the UK. And they've delivered over £20 million worth of free technology education and teaching. And that's a significant amount more than the entire UK university and undergraduate system as a whole. So our team here partner with Code First Girls to inspire women into coding, to mentor, teach women on these courses. And we're always innovating that relationship that we have with them. And every year that brings a different stance to what we're supporting and how we're trying to drive the effectiveness with Code First Girls in that sector. And we're also focusing in areas like social mobility. We see that that topic come up in the UK and from government on a continual basis. And for many years now, we've worked with Upreach, who supports students from less advantaged backgrounds to secure, great jobs in the city. Upreach have seen significant growth and through tailored interventions. So we hold insights, as do many other organisations, so insights into what it's like to work at Bank of America or within the financial institution area to help prepare some of those students for the workforce. And obviously through COVID, that there's been a significant impact on those from more social mobility backgrounds, but we've continued to support and more so than ever that kind of support is needed. So that's just a glimpse of some of the ongoing things that we're doing. There will be more, but that's just a glimpse right now.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's good to know that Bank of America is doing so much. So the next question is, as the head of diversity and inclusion in the entire Emea region, do you think any region is doing particularly well in D&I? And on the other hand, are there any regions or D&I topics such as the gender pay gap or bridging the generation gap, etc., where you would like to see more activity in the future?
Thank you. So I think working in a global organisation and also engaging with D&I professionals at other organisations, everyone is still on the diversity and inclusion journey, and that will continue as the demographics of our workforce changes over time, as you rightly said, that with the generation challenges and changes that we're seeing. And I think working within different cultures and history, and the history that we've seen in some of those cultures, is always going to impact where and how quickly progress can be made. So as an organisation here, our diversity and inclusion team is incredibly global. So I have partners that are based in Asia Pacific, and some specifically in India. I'm here in Emea. I have US partners, I have Canada partners, and I have Latin America partners as well. So people based in all of those different, or supporting all of those different markets. And of course, as a financial services organisation, we've got some areas of real consistent focus. In the investment banking industry, gender is a continued, gender representation is continued focus. But what I'd also say is that every country, every culture brings something different in terms of where you're focusing, what you can do. And we're fortunate that we have teams around the world that can leverage and are SMEs in their countries that they're covering, and can really identify, how we need to work from a diversity and inclusion and where we need to focus from the different landscapes that we're working in. But there's so many factors, right? In financial services, we're also regulated around the world by various different regulators. And we've also got a very complex legal landscape as well to take into consideration when we're defining diversity and inclusion strategies. And that goes for most organisations. But I think financial services, the regulatory element, certainly puts more spotlight in this space, but also sometimes as well creates complexity in what we're doing and what we need to do and where we need to focus. So in my experience, every country is different. Every country, culture is making progress at different rates. There's certainly some encouraging elements in the fact that we're having open conversations, and you can see organisations, corporates or private and public, making steps in diversity and inclusion, is certainly encouraging. And I think there's lots more to do. I think, to your point, certainly some countries are more progressive with government, progressive with kind of diversity and inclusion, because some of the governmental requirements are keeping the focus. So here in the UK, we've got gender pay gap, for instance, regulations from the government. We've also now got that in France. We're going to see that in Spain. We're going to see that emerging in Ireland as well. And these types of regulation really influence organisations to constantly review progress and address the root cause of disparities. But, you only need to look at the press coverage to notice that, there's still a significant amount of time until we close that gender pay gap. And there's different timeframes quoted around the world. So it's about that constant focus. We've also seen a lot of coverage of the impact of COVID and women in the workplace particularly. And as we take steps towards recovery, it's really about focusing on how do we build that better, those organisations, that diversity and inclusion landscape and the inclusive landscape that we have for diverse individuals. So essentially, there's more work to do in many areas and countries. And when you look at some of the external workforce trends and the technology changes that are coming and at constant, I think our focus as D&I professionals will need to remain flexible, adaptable, but also intersectional as well.
Thank you very much. The next question is Bank of America planning on launching more programs for candidates from diverse backgrounds?
Yeah, sure. So I've mentioned already that we already work with a selection of partners to bring programs for candidates from diverse backgrounds. I mentioned a couple, so SEO, Upbreach, Code First Girls. We have a variety of them globally. We also have a quite significant Africa program that has been in place since 2013, where we actively recruit for talent from Africa each year and have a specific program. So we are regularly reviewing our attraction strategy to make sure that we're creating and fueling a diverse pipeline as we move forward, whether that's the universities that we're targeting, the partnerships that we enter into, or actually our key messaging to the candidates that we're trying to attract, whether they're from university and their students or whether they're more experienced hires. We're constantly adapting our messaging in that space. But one new initiative that we are working on right now is our partnership with 10,000 Black Interns. And that's an initiative which aims to transform the prospect, the horizons of young Black people in the UK by providing paid work experience in organisations like ours. There's numerous organisations that have signed up to this great initiative. So that's one that we're currently planning on, and this is and we should be welcoming our first cohort in the next 12 months through that initiative, but something that we're really focused on, making sure we create the best experience for those individuals coming through that programme and really focusing on how we can support that overall initiative.
Thank you. And lastly, what advice would you give to students looking to pursue a career within the Diversity and Inclusion Office within an investment bank? Thank you.
So firstly, I would say that it's a hugely interesting and challenging role, whichever industry you do this role in. I'd say you have to have a certain passion in this area, something that drives your interests and an understanding and I guess a belief as well that the value of diversity and inclusion and what that can bring to a business. I think you've also got to be able to embrace and work in an ever-changing environment. We see social injustice happening in our communities around the world, and that really impacts employees in different ways. So you have to build also a good people skill set to support those conversations, to provide support and to keep that progress moving. And my additional tip would be to read, and really focus on listening to people's perspectives and also being prepared to challenge your own perspectives as well. Because, you know, diversity and inclusion, in my experience, is a very personal topic to each and every individual. And therefore, you have to be, as a diversity and inclusion professional, flexible and adaptable in every scenario that you face, and really trying to understand the perspectives of your workforce, and really then working through, you know, how do we move forward? How do we progress? What are the right decisions to make in this space? But it's an incredibly interesting career to have, certainly very challenging, and also, you know, quite progressive in terms of what we're seeing around the world and the continued focus on diversity and inclusion. So I would say it's also a very exciting time to be in this space as well.
Well, thank you for all the insights and answers. They were really interesting. And for the last answer that you gave, I really hope that this whole interview will inspire some people not to only take a strict route to, I don't know, M&A, but to consider other positions and diversity and inclusion. So here's some inspiration to that. Thank you again. And to our viewers, please do consider of liking this video and subscribing to our channel.